Hello. I'm seeing that we are going live now. So I want to start up by saying a very good afternoon to all our lovely audience who are joining in. And I understand that I should also say good evening and good morning because we do have audiences as well who are joining from different parts of the globe. But a very warm welcome to this extraordinary and significant gathering, a session that we are kicking off where we are two organizations, IKEA India and Standard Chartered Bank, where we are coming together. Very different in our business areas, and yet we are embarking on a journey with a very special and a shared purpose. However, before I start and I share more, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Parinita Cecil Lakra. I am the Country People and Culture Manager for IKEA India. And today I have the privilege and the responsibility to make an introduction to this first ever collaboration between our companies, which I think is purely non-transactional and non-monetary in nature, but something where we are coming together, which is based on a mutual vision, on a collective quest, and a shared commitment to build and nurture truly gender balanced and inclusive workplaces in India. But before I go on, a little bit of a storytelling that I think would be interesting for the audience to also know of. So a few months ago, I had the most intriguing request from our CFO, who actually sent me a note and mentioned that some colleagues from our partner bank, Standard Chartered, would like to talk to us at IKEA on our gender equality initiatives and our journey on having built a workplace with 47% women. And this led to my first conversation with the Standard Chartered team. And I must say, it was one of the most intriguing and enlightening conversations that I had, because even though from both the organizations we were seeing good numbers, I realized there is so much that we could learn from each other and also contribute to each other's quest and in our journeys as organizations. So having said that, there's a saying that goes, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And that's how that one conversation led to another and another. And that brings us to this very moment. And I would love to make an introduction of what we are co-creating together as organization. Together, Standard Chartered and IKEA India is coming together on a program which we are calling Prerna, a program of collective initiatives towards gender inclusion. Prerna, for many of us, we understand the word. Prerna means inspiration, it means motivation, it means boost, it means a stimulus. So we are hoping that this is bringing our companies to have a commitment to collaborate, to exchange, to inspire each other as we move forward to amplify our commitments for building equitable, diverse, and inclusive workplaces, and with special commitments for improving and strengthening our gender balance. We are committing to a 12-month period, a space of commitment and collaboration, which will be, of course, for taking concrete steps and co-creating initiatives together. But let me switch gears and put a little bit of a context to our realities, and I will refer to a very interesting report, that's the Global Gender Gap Report in 2023 from the World Economic Forum. And when we look at this report, India ranks as 127 out of the 146 countries in terms of how we do on our gender gap. And we have, as a country, moved in our rankings since 2022. But we see that even though we are the most populous country in the world, our ranking is actually lower compared to some of our neighbors, our neighboring countries. This report also throws a very stark alert that in countries in Southeast Asia, it will take approximately 132 years to achieve gender parity if we continue to progress at the pace and at the speed that we are doing right now. Coming back to India, we are a very populous country. Almost 48% of our population is women. But when we look at the participation of women in the workforce, we are hardly just reaching around the 33%. And this, of course, has moved a little bit up since the last report that the report captured. We also have to take a look at the pay gap, the gender pay gap that is prevalent across not just in the country, but everywhere in the world. And also what is alarming is that there is a bit of a dip in the urban employment when it comes to seeing a pattern when we are seeing educated women who are stepping out of the workforce. But having said that, of course, there are many challenges, but it also presents to us the never-ending opportunity for making a positive and a strong movement to make a tomorrow as better than what we had in the past. And there's a saying, it goes that the first step towards change is awareness, the second step is acceptance, but I actually think that the first step is inspiration. And on that note, let me invite you all to an amazing conversation between the most inspiring persons nearest to us. Let's listen into their thoughts, their journeys, their inspiration on this topic. And very soon, I will take a moment to introduce them to you. I'm sure you can see them on your screens as well already. And for our lovely audience, just a little bit of practicalities. Please be aware that we are recording this session. To support audibility at your end, we encourage the audience to please stay on mute. And towards the end of the session, we would love to have, we would love to take some questions. So as and when the questions pop to you, please use the chat feature and send them across. I will be collecting them and organizing them that we can bring them to our beautiful panel who is waiting to get started. So having said that, we are all set, and it's my privilege to introduce the panel for the fireside chat this afternoon. Please welcome Suzanne Pulver. She is the CEO for IKEA India. I also take the opportunity to say a big welcome to Zareen Daruvala, CEO, Standard Chartered Bank India and South Asia. And moderating this amazing discussion is Simon Cooper, CEO, TCIB and CEO, Europe and America, Standard Chartered Bank, and the DE&I leader for Standard Chartered. So to know our panel more closely and to hear from them, Simon, I pass it to you. Please do take it away.
Thank you, Barney, and look, Happy New Year, everybody. What an exciting way to kick off 2024. So thank you for including me. I think Kapil Sharma is a famous Indian talk show host. I am not Kapil Sharma, but I will try my best to host this conversation with Suzanne and Zareen. And Suzanne, maybe I can start with you. I mean, I think everybody on the call, IKEA is the epitome of what a successful global company looks like. You know, rather like Standard Chartered, you operate across a huge range of markets. But it'd be really interesting, I think, to understand how diversity fits into the global strategy that's IKEA and how important it is as a part of, I guess, the employee proposition that you have both in India and worldwide.
So can you hear me? I'm audible? Yes. Thank you for the question, and it's a big one, so I will try to summarize. The journey that I have with IKEA is 27 years. That's quite common. You stay forever in the company and you move different jobs and organizations. When I came 97, I started in the group function, and I was, of course, seeing with my eyes, it was a lot of men around. And when I saw the list of 200 top managers back then, there were 6 women. So I was shocked. And that took a few years, some change in the leadership, and the journey started in the beginning of 2000. So we have more than 20 years of having diversity as part of our agenda. Of course, it takes time to create the inspiration. Pali talked about the awareness, and then also coming into the actions and the commitment. But I think more than 10 years back was my first session when we formed a women's forum, not limited to women, but to really focus on what does it take to come to a gender diverse organization. And since then, it has grown and grown and grown. And I think it's an ongoing journey. And of course, from gender, the diversity agenda widens the more you work with it to other dimensions of diversity, to whatever dimension you can get in. And you need to work with them all. But the most obvious one, and one of the primary, has been gender. So I would say you can never relax on it. It's still an agenda we keep in focus. It's placed under sustainability, and sustainability is one of the values of IKEA and one of the core directions forward and in our strategies. So in that way, we follow up with KPIs, we follow up on the goals we set, which is 50-50 on all levels in all organizations. So that's in short the journey that I've been part of with IKEA.
Fantastic. And I assume that makes IKEA a very attractive employer. When you have that reputation, you've built that story, then it becomes easier over time to attract a more diverse workforce as well.
Yeah, if I should say three things when I meet people who apply for jobs at IKEA, why do you want to work for us? There are many times three things. It's sustainability, the environmental part, it's diversity, and it's the values and the culture we have. This comes more or less in every talk if we sit in an interview or meeting people for the first time. So it makes a company more attractive for sure.
I mean, in terms of the cultural shift that you've experienced, moving from predominantly Western culture into India, we're really interested to get your perspective on where you see things that are clearly different, where you see things that are very similar, and I guess particularly given the theme of today, when it comes to gender inclusion, and I guess that can be at home and it can be in the workplace as well.
What's different it's still like Paris said, it's almost reaching 33% of the labor force participation being women. And from the culture Sweden, where I come, it's more or less 100%. So it's given that both men and women, both partners work, and that's how the family life is developed. So what I see is a difference. We are on the way in India. I think when it comes to education, I see massive efforts to educate men and women, and there are so many brilliant, educated women in this country. But the challenge is to keep them, maybe after marriage, to stay on and be supported by the families to continue and show that you can be a very caring and good mother and family contributor at the same time. So it doesn't have to be that it's something negative if I can't stay at home and take care of the family. I think that's the shift. So there are some steps to take, but once we get people and the women into the work, there is no difference. It's so good, and it really shows off in business that a diverse organization is a more healthy and successful organization. And there are a lot of research on this, so no doubt about it.
Fantastic, Zareen. I think you're with us now, and I thought it was interesting. It took two men to turn your volume on, as opposed to Susanna, had one woman do it. So that shows you that diversity is very powerful if we harness it. So maybe just to go back, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on D&I and how it's evolved within Standard Chartered as a main agenda item, please.
You can hear me now, right? Yeah. Okay, sorry about this glitch. Yeah, so we don't have the enviable number that Suzanne has in terms of diversity, but we have about 30% of our women, and we are really trying very hard to grow that number. But a few things that we did on D&I, which I think some of them quite unique, some of them quite first in India. So we were amongst the few organizations in the country to extend medical benefit and relocation allowance for LGBT plus partners of our colleagues. Way back in 2006, we started daycare center. When I talk to a lot of the women, they find that a very, very useful thing in India because they can bring their small babies and we take care of kids up to 5 years age in the daycare center. So that's been really something that is very appreciated by our colleagues. And we have it in 3 locations, Bombay, Gurgaon, and Chennai. We were the first in the country, again, way back in 2009, to offer 6 months of paternity leave. And recently, across the bank, we've offered 20 weeks of paternal leave. That also has been very well appreciated. We also won the Gold Award for Stonewall Pride Circle India Workplace Equality Index for LGBT plus inclusion, 3 years in succession. And the bank has been recognized amongst the India's best workplaces for women in 2021 and 2022 by Great Place to Work Institute also. I think something that I'm quite proud of is also how we address the differently abled in India. Actually, we were the first in the industry to launch a sign language helpline for external and internal clients, and added sign language helpline to the contact us page on our website. So that has been something that has been really appreciated. We have differently abled colleagues in India and our global business services hub in Chennai and Bangalore. And our bank's client contact center won the best digital customer experience initiative for its banking via sign language. That was something quite unique. So I would say we're really working very hard on the diversity side, but on the inclusion side, I think we've taken a lot of good initiatives.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously, you're both, tremendous examples of leadership of any gender in your industries, our industries. I mean, Suzanne, if I ask you first, over that 27-year history, what are the key factors do you think that impacted your ability to rise and be, I guess a leader at various different levels as you've gone through that career journey?
So when I started, I was not very aware about the gender diversity dimension, because I come from a family with my grandmother being a role model. She was an extremely strong woman in a society where it was not so normal. And on top of that, I have 2 elder sisters who paved the way. And then I have a younger brother, but my father was always equal in education and opportunities for us. So for me, it was given. So I entered work life and life overall like I'm a strong woman. I'm as strong as a man. I even wanted to do military service, which I didn't do. It wouldn't have been a very good idea, I think. But I was on this line. I wanted to drive a motorbike. I always thought we can do equal to any man. So I entered my work life, and I think to have a strong voice, and of course in the beginning when we were 6 women in the top management and 196 men, I felt intimidated. I felt sometimes I was sitting around the table in a meeting room. I said something, no one listened. Someone else, a man, said something, and suddenly, oh, this is a good idea. What a good proposal. So it happened to me. But I always tried to kind of ignore it and say it again and speak up and raise my voice and just ignore any stupid, thing that would prevent me if I had something good to say. So I think that's how I started to build my leadership, and gradually the more women that came in, and today we are 50-50 in almost all organizations. My peers, country managers, we are 50-50, maybe even more women than men right now. So then you don't have to think so much about it any longer. But I think a strong voice, courage to speak up, and also courage to protect someone else when you see there is a bias or if there is a behavior that is not equal or supporting the diversity agenda.
Fantastic, thank you. I mean, Zarina, I know when we're looking at assessing our talent against sort of matrices of skills, one of the key metrics that we use for leaders is resilience. And it'd be great to get your thoughts on how you've managed to build a little bit to what Suzanne's saying, I think, how you've built resilience into your career journey. And if there's one thing that you think really stands out as being important to you as a leader.
Yes. So one mantra I think which has really helped me is never give up. And this has helped me overcome most challenges. And I think my mind works on solutioning rather than the problem. If the problem, you can't wish it away, but the approach I always take is, okay, whatever has happened now. What do we do and how do we solution and how do we sort of overcome that? So that mindset of never give up and complete solutioning is something that I feel has helped me really enormously. And to my mind, that is what to some extent has built resilience also in how I do things. And also, I think somewhere I've also, when I look at my experience in Standard Chartered Bank India, it's not about witch hunting, but it's about, okay, the problem is there in what will we do differently. And I've told in my town halls also that I have allergy to people who say this can't be done. My thing is, please tell me how it can be done or any ideas. So when you come to my room, come with ideas of how things can be done. So everybody works in a solutioning mindset. And that is, to my mind, really helped me and a lot of the leaders in India.
Fantastic. So while listening to Zareen, I've also been thinking about the observation you made that IKEA is now at 50-50 essentially, which is certainly to me seems a phenomenal achievement. I mean, is that specific to IKEA, or is it becoming the industry norm? And if it, I guess in either example, what can you point to a particular catalyst for that, or is it just a cultural mindset that's enabled that? Because that we can all learn from that.
I don't think it's the benchmark in the industry. Nowhere. Maybe Sweden is close to, but as I said, it didn't come for free. It came by an aware and committed management who made it part of our strategy. So back when the shift came in the beginning of 2000, like more than 20 years back, it became part of our sustainability agenda as a pillar. And with that came also goals and KPIs. And I remember so well back then we had a CEO, because it starts with the recruitment. If you don't recruit for diversity, it will not happen. It's the time you can influence, and that is why it can take time to change to get diversity, and then you need to work on the inclusion part. But he refused to meet one male candidate. He said, I am not interested until you bring me at least one woman candidate, so I can see what is possible. And that's how it shifted. And then that is how the first CEO in India said to even the government here that we commit to gender diversity. We will have a 50-50 organization. And everyone said, oh, that's too much. You will not achieve it. But they did not give up 1 second over the 10 years we have been building up IKEA India, the retail part. That has been the agenda from the start, and even in challenging areas like forklift driver or kitchen assembly, we managed to get women, but it takes a lot of effort. So it's commitment from management down to all levels, and to follow up and always look at what is your gender share, and make course correction if you drift off or if you aren't on the right level. So it has been hard work, I would say, over the 20 years.
Yeah, but well worth it. But maybe a sort of question to both of you. Actually, maybe two questions. I think they're linked. I mean, if as you look back, have you come across something that you felt was a really significant barrier that you're really proud that you overcame? And I guess perhaps linked to that, not necessarily, was there a point during your career when you thought, you know what, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to slow down? And if you did come to that, what made you keep going? A little bit way back to that resilience point, what made you fight and go forwards? Maybe Zareen, start with you, then come back to Suzanne.
Yeah. So actually, I think I've been blessed to be in two organizations, ICICI Bank and Standard Chartered, both of which have been very supportive of diversity. So of course, I spent 25 years in ICICI Bank, and ICICI Bank has always been looked at as one of the organizations which people look up to for producing a lot of women leaders. And to that extent, I don't think I ever felt that there was a barrier in my career at all. And I've been fortunate to have at least a lot of women bosses also. So to that extent, it was a culture which sort of really encouraged women leaders. But I would say when I look at a lot of the women around, I feel that sometimes women have it in their head that they can't do it. To my mind, it is something that sometimes women hold back. They don't put up their hand for a position. And my message always has been that don't hold yourself back. You will be able to do it, and women are blessed with being able to be multitasking. And in terms of taking a break, I didn't feel that way because I've been blessed to have a very supportive ecosystem, which has always stood by me. My family, my mother, my mother-in-law, everybody has helped me when the kids were young. So I somehow have not felt like hanging up at all.
Suzanne?
Yeah, no, I think the support that it's always a family decision for the man or the woman or the partner when it comes to the choices you make for the family, for work, etc. And when, as I've said, in Sweden, it's normal that both father and mother or both partners, they work when they have children. But of course, I had 3 children with only 2 years in between. And there were occasions when they started to enter school where it was very tough, where they were not doing great, where we were not in a happy place. And what I tried is to look at how can we change, what can we do, how can we find a solution to this. So I encourage, there are always different things you can do to further improve. One choice is, of course, to take a break, but there are also other things you can do, partly change the way you work, get some more support, and you overcome it. So I think try to find solutions on it and really, really work with the family and to get the support. And the biggest hinder I've seen in India is the lack of support or understanding that this is actually good for the family if the mother and the woman in the family also can work to increase livelihood, to increase the household income, to make it more equal. It's the right way forward, but it only works well if it's a family decision with support. And of course, it depends on what family background you have. But I recall some early days when we prepared for being inclusive and having more women, and we went to vulnerable groups to really include them in the workforce and make them ready. And at the point, several of them were called back that they couldn't work because that was not well seen, maybe at the marriage time. We even went to the families to explain. And at some point, we managed to actually convince to get the woman back at work. So I think that's the best I can say and the most important to become a successful woman in work and to be a successful family as well. To have that dialogue around the support and find the solutions when it's a little bit challenging, because it is to juggle everything in life, of course, work and private and family and maybe children.
I think that, you talk about that support network and that. Honestly, I think, as well as not being an Indian talk show host, I'm also not a woman, but I can tell you that having that support is hugely important to a career. But I guess you drew the examples out about culturally in India in particular, that may not sit. I mean, Zarina, did you feel that you talked about the support of your mother-in-law? I mean, did you think people were making particular sacrifices, either in terms of their physical sacrifice, but also in terms of I guess, their perceptions in society, or were they strong enough to push through that?
No, clearly, I think for some people it is difficult to get the ecosystem. I think I was lucky to get that ecosystem. But I think it's also about being a little practical as a mother about what things you just let go and some things that you do. For example, most of the parent teacher meetings, I used to request my husband to go and not go myself. Sometimes the kids' birthdays I would celebrate on weekends because weekdays there was something pressing and I didn't want So it's about the whole family also sort of acknowledging that there are certain priorities. So it's not about sacrifices, but it's about compromises, I would say, sometimes that you have to do along the way. And I mean, I would compartmentalize my life when the kids were small: Monday to Fridays, office, and Saturdays, Sundays, kids' studies, which was important to focus at that point of time. So I think each woman has to figure out what works for her in terms of how to manage both. And I think if you set your mind to do it, it just happens, is my own thing. And again, it's important to build some ecosystem, whether it's a household help or something who sort of supports you so that you can then, come to work free of all the tension that is personal related. So my advice would be that, actually.
Fantastic. I mean, you're both clearly role models for the talent, male and female, around you. And as you look at what you've been doing personally to encourage that talent development, are there any particular things you've learned or seen in terms of, maybe it's a mentorship or sponsorship that you think have been really successful in terms of developing that female talent? Maybe Suzanne will go to you first.
Yeah, I make myself accessible, and I have always accepted mentorship of women when I've got the question. Of course, time is limited, but so far I've managed, and I think that's the best. And sometimes it's a couple of talks, a couple of meetings, and that can make a big difference. So I think to try, and if I come to a situation where I couldn't, I have a lot of women around me, women leaders who could also take on. So I think this one-on-one can be a catalyst for an individual to be able to take the steps. And I'm also very open to form new forums. Like I said, back more than 10 years when I was called to the first women forum we created at IKEA. If that is something that would be asked for in India, I'm really happy to start that up. And I might think it could be something we should do actually to further strengthen the gender diversity in India here.
Fantastic. Zoe, anything to add into that?
Yeah, I think very similar to what Suzanne said, but one or two more points that I would like to make is sometimes I find that if I can create that ability for a woman colleague, to open up. Sometimes there are things that are pressing in their lives and they need somebody who's sort of has more experience to talk about their personal issues. Sometimes, when women are thinking of taking a break, I encourage them to come and talk to me, sort of, to hear their personal issues. So I have sort of created that environment where women, even middle management, junior, feel free to come and talk about their issues, what's bothering them. Because sometimes it might be a smallish thing which is bothering them, and if I can sort of enable that, that is what I have focused on. Apart from what we do in D&I Council and many other platforms, I think it's important to understand or keep the doors open for younger women to come and freely talk about their issues or their career aspirations. That is something that I focus on and take out the time to do that.
Brilliant. So one of the things that I've heard talked about a lot is the sort of battle between diversity on the one hand and meritocracy on the other hand. It'd be really interesting to get both of your perspectives as leaders in your own business. How do you answer that? How do you nip that at the bud and stop that being a sort of negative chat box that comes out. Suzanne, maybe kick off with you.
Yeah. Can you repeat what is the dilemma?
The accusation that's made sometimes that you can fight for diversity or you can fight for meritocracy, but the two can not always be consistent.
Yeah, I think it's if that comes up, and it does sometimes, we say, of course, it's always competence and the fit for the job when we recruit. And as I said, it starts with recruiting. Of course, we do not compromise, but we also talk about and we train our managers in value-based recruitment. So besides the competence, the knowledge, maybe the capabilities and motivation, we look also at the values and the diversity dimension there. And I think we have to look if you are in a situation that it's clear you need to recruit a woman or a man, for that sake, that can also be the case. You have to look really hard. And then if you have found a fantastic candidate, but not of the right, you need to continue the search. I think there is nothing else, but of course, and maybe sometimes you need to, if you can't wait, you have found your candidate, then it is an exception. So you need to be practical also. But the starting point is we can never compromise on competence and say we are fine with less competence. But I rarely think in the end that is a real dilemma. It's a made-up dilemma, maybe an accusation more than a reality. But it can be that you're searching in a domain where it's more candidates of one gender. Then you need to really look hard, maybe take a recruitment firm to support you to find candidates so you have more choices. And then really try to find, so it adds to your diversity ambition. And sometimes you have to make an exception. I've done that also when I didn't find in the end the right, and I couldn't compromise on time or competence. But it's problems to overcome. I think it's not a big hinder in the whole.
Thank you. Anything to add? And I know I've made a promise that I will open up to Q&A in a couple of minutes. So maybe if there's anything to add, otherwise I'll also wrap up this section and pass on to Paranisa.
Yeah, so I think on diversity, I don't think, to my mind, one compromises on the meritocracy. But yes, as Suzanne said, you have to, for example, in India, you have to make that extra effort to find the right resume, when you're recruiting, etc. And as Suzanne said, sometimes you want one female candidate in the mix so that it's a proper comparison. But at the end of the day, to my mind, it's the underlying thing has to be meritocracy. And of course, if you find a great woman talent, why not? So, in my approach.
So as promised, we're going to move into Q&A, and I'll pass back. But first, I mean, just from my perspective, thank you both. I mean, I was really delighted to listen to the conversation, and obviously we've had a lot of people dial in to listen as well. So thank you to everybody who dialed in to listen. I mean, I'm really confident that this sort of partnership is going to really help accelerate that culture of diversity, of equity and inclusion that actually we at Standard Chartered, you at IKEA, Suzanne, are really trying to foster in our respective organisations. I've learned a new word as well. I'm not sure I can pronounce it, but prana. And I think that prana, that inspiration of this joint D&I engagement plan in India between Standard Chartered on the one hand and IKEA on the other, and fantastic. That is inspiration for all of us. I've been inspired by the discussions we've had today. I've also been energized. And I think my commitment going forward, my pledge, if you like, is that I'm going to take the energy from today. I'm going to give this initiative, this partnership, and the business that I run's full support. But Suzanne, Zareen, love to get your thoughts and your pledges before we pass across. Suzanne, start with you, then finish with Zareen. But thank you.
So the question was my pledge, or what? Yeah. No, my pledge is to continue to keep focus on gender diversity, but also include other dimensions of diversity in how we continue to build up our organization and how we are as an organization, to learn more, to find ways forward, because this is an ongoing journey, and we are probably, as we always say, only in the beginning.
So there are numerous successes to be shared and learned from both the organizations. So I would like the platform established today to be used to have more leaders from both sides take the stage and potentially look to share trainings and learnings and shared assets with both of our organizations can benefit from.
Brilliant. Paranita, I'll pass back to you.
Thank you so much, Simon, and Zareen, Suzanne, Simon, yourself. Thank you for such an engaging, intriguing conversation amongst the three of you. Thank you so much, Zareen, and the audiences. Thank you for being amazing. I'm leaving all of you and wrapping the session with a quote from our founder, Ingvar Kamprad, and he said, "The most dangerous poison is in the feeling of achievement. The antidote is to every evening think of what can be done better tomorrow." So for all of us, whether we are starting the journey, whether we are on the way, let's keep that. And thank you, Simon. Thank you, Zareen. Thank you, Suzanne, for sharing your thoughts, for echoing your pledge towards this commitment. We are kicking off Prerna, and it could not have expected a better start than to have you leading and sharing your commitments towards this collaboration. I also want to take a 10-second moment to thank teams both from IKEA and Standard Chartered that have been behind the scenes, that have made this possible. The audiences, thank you for pushing in your questions. We will send an input, a survey link for your feedback as well, but also let your thoughts know. How do you want this collaboration to shape up? What are the things that you would like to see that we can truly stay committed to not just build and strengthen and improve inclusion in our organizations, but hopefully for society at large as well. So thank you everyone for joining in. Zareen, Suzanne, Simon, once again, a big thank you for sharing your thoughts and bringing inspiration to all of us this afternoon. Have a very good afternoon and the rest of the day.
Thank you everyone. Zareen, Simon,
Thanks,
Barry. Bye-bye, and everyone listening in.